Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on quite an exploration into the ancient wisdom of Vedanta.
Hmm.
We're drawing from some really fascinating material you sent over. First lessons in Vedanta, T Advaita in Shastras, and parts of the Sarvasara Upanishad.
That's right.
And our mission really is to navigate these sources and, pull out the key insights of this tradition for you.
Yeah, and Vedanta, it can seem, well, pretty vast and complex when you first dive in.
Absolutely.
But think of this as maybe your personal shortcut. We'll be trying to extract the essential principles from these texts,
Okay.
really aiming for a clear, engaging understanding of the foundations. And these sources, they cover a lot from, the nature of reality itself to practical steps for inner work,
All grounded in scripture.
all grounded in the Shastras, exactly.
Okay, so to get us started then, let's jump right into what Vedanta sees as the ultimate reality.
Brahman, the big one.
Yeah. Our first lesson source gives this incredible list of descriptions. It says Brahman is nirvishesham, without specific attributes.
Right. Or attributeless.
Yet pure being, not defined by what it has, but just what it is. It's also akhandam, undivided, whole, and then it keeps going. Nishkriyam, actionless. Which means, I guess, it's the unchanging ground for all action.
Precisely. It doesn't do anything itself. It transcends time, kalatitam, and space, deshatitam.
Wow.
It's without change. Nirvikaram equal samam, peaceful, shantam, formless, paripam, spotless, niranjanam, and fundamentally non-dual advaitam.
That's quite a list to start with.
It is, and it doesn't stop there. It really keeps emphasizing this idea of something beyond our usual grasp.
Yeah.
The source adds that Brahman is unchanging, nishalam, and eternal nityam. It's free from limitations, nirapadam, and nothing surpasses it, niratichayam.
Nothing beyond it.
Nothing. Imagine that completeness. It's also without form, nirakaram, yet somehow eternally immovable, kutastam.
Okay.
And crucially, it's identified as consciousness itself, prajnanam, the silent witness of everything, sakshi, the ultimate seer, drashtor, and even that fourth seat of consciousness, toryam, which, we should unpack later.
Definitely. And the descriptions keep coming. It's also pure knowledge, visionam, self-effulgent, svayam jyoti. It shines by itself, needs no other light.
Self-luminous, svaprakasha.
Right. Absolute. Kaivalyam, kevalam, pure shuddham, perfect siddham, pure consciousness, shuddhatatanyam. Without faults, nirdosham, all-knowing. Buddham, and this is interesting, without thoughts or doubts, nirvikalpam, beyond the mind's chatter.
Completely beyond it. It's the essence, svarupam, one homogeneous essence, akarsam, unlimited, a pradikinam,
Needs no support either, right? Niralambam.
nirtrashyam.
Self-sustaining, and without duality, nirdvanvam, unthinkable, akintyam, immortal, avinashi, indescribable, avyapadishyam,
Ungraspable.
agrahyam, without defining marks, alachanam, and the cessation of all phenomena, prapanchapashamam.
It almost feels like we're describing it by saying everything it isn't. That's a very sharp observation.
Yeah.
Because Brahman, in its ultimate nature, is beyond our limited minds and words.
Right.
But what's key is how these descriptions, all these terms, point towards a reality that's fundamentally different from our day-to-day experience.
Yeah.
And the source highlights Satchidananda. Sat, eternal existence. Chit, eternal infinite consciousness. And Ananda, eternal bliss, as maybe the best pointer we have for Brahman.
Satchidananda.
Yeah, but it's not three separate things. It's one reality experienced in these three, inseparable aspects.
And there's that really powerful Vedic statement mentioned. There is nothing diverse here. Followed by the idea that knowing this leads to immortality. That's a huge claim. What does that mean for us, for our sense of being individuals?
It totally challenges how we usually see ourselves in the world, doesn't it? If fundamentally there was nothing diverse, then our feeling of separation.
Me versus you, me versus the world.
Exactly. That feeling is ultimately presented as an illusion. And the Ayurveda in Shastra's source really drives this home. It states clearly that the individual self, the Atman,
Our inner essence.
is identical to this Brahman. They're one and the same. This oneness, this non-duality, it's like the central thread running through all these texts you've got.
Okay. So if everything is fundamentally this one Brahman, non-dual, then where do we fit in? As these seemingly separate people experiencing this world.
Good question.
Which brings us to, I guess, the illusion of individuality, the jiva, and the world as maya or avidya.
Exactly. According to First Lessons, the biggest barrier, the main obstacle to realizing this oneness is something called Dehadhyasa.
Hadihas.
Yes, this is really deep-seated identification we have with our physical body.
Thinking, I am this body.
Right. We mistakenly think we are just the skin, bones, thoughts, feelings.
Yeah.
So to help us unpack this misidentification, Vedanta talks about the 3 bodies.
Gross, subtle, causal.
And also the 5 sheaths, the koshas, like layers.
Right, the Annamaya, Pranamaya.
Manamaya, Vijnanamaya, Anamanaya, food sheath, energy sheath, mind sheath, intellect sheath, and bliss sheath.
So these are like layers covering the jiva, the individual consciousness, making us feel limited.
Think of them exactly like layers of clothing, yeah.
Yeah.
They obscure the jiva, leading us to believe we are these limitations.
And the source mentions these koshas function differently in waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It says only the Anandamaya kosha, the bliss sheath, is fully active in deep sleep. What's the big deal about that?
Well, think about deep sleep. Your usual sense of I disappears, right? The world vanishes.
True. No dreams, nothing.
Vedanta suggests that in that state, we touch a kind of undifferentiated bliss rooted in Brahman. We're not consciously aware of it when we wake up, usually.
That it's there.
It offers a hint, a glimpse of our true nature that lies underneath all the mental activity of waking and dreaming.
Interesting. Then we have Maya and Avidya. First lesson says Maya is Brahman's power that projects the world's appearance.
The cosmic illusion maker, you could say. The cause.
While Avidya is individual ignorance, our personal lack of knowing our true nature, the effect.
Precisely. Maya is the power. Avidya is our individual experience of being caught in that power's projection.
So the jiva, this individual soul, how does it arise?
Through superimposition. We basically superimpose names and forms onto the reality of Brahman. We start thinking, I am this gross body, I am this mind.
And the world itself is seen as unreal from that absolute perspective.
Yes, relatively real for us day to day, but ultimately unreal. The sources use some really vivid analogies here.
Like the snake and the rope.
Exactly. You see a rope in dim light, think it's a snake. The snake seems totally real. You feel fear until you see the rope clearly. The snake vanishes.
The illusion disappears.
Or the mirage of water in the desert. Looks real to someone thirsty, but it's just an appearance. It can't quench thirst.
The Ayurveda source mentions that rope snake one too, right? From Bhagavatam.
It does, yeah. Highlighting how the illusion disappears with knowledge of the Supreme Soul, the substratum, the rope.
These analogies are, well, they're really helpful for getting your head around the idea that what seems solid might not be the full story.
Definitely.
So if we're caught in this illusion, how do we get out? What's the path to liberation, to moksha?
The sources are really clear here. The direct path is through knowledge. Knowledge of the true self. Atmajnana or Brahmajnana.
Self-knowledge.
Yes. This knowledge is like the light that just dissolves the darkness of ignorance, of avidya. First Lessons lays out a 4-fold process for this self-realization. It's called Sravana Chatustaya.
Okay, 4 steps.
Kind of. First, Sravana, hearing the teachings, usually from a qualified teacher, guru. Then Manana, deep reflection, thinking it through, questioning, removing intellectual doubts.
So it's not just blind faith.
Not at all. Then comes Nididhyasana, profound, sustained meditation, really dwelling on the identity of the self in Brahman. And finally, Sakshachara, direct intuitive realization, knowing it for yourself.
Wow. It also mentions the importance of Sadhana Chatushtaya, the 4 qualifications for a student. What are those, briefly?
Right. While the excerpts don't detail them exhaustively, generally they are. Viveka discrimination, telling the difference between the eternal Brahman and the temporary world.
Okay.
Vairagya detachment, dispassion towards fleeting worldly pleasures. Then Shatsampat, the 6 inner treasures. Control of mind, senses withdrawal, endurance, faith, and concentration.
And the last one.
Mumukshutva, a really intense longing, a burning desire for liberation, moksha, freedom from the cycle.
That makes sense. You'd need that drive. Our source also talks about karma, selfless action, and upasana, devotion or worship. How do they fit in?
They prepare the ground. Karma yoga, acting without attachment to results, purifies the mind of selfish desires. Upasana, focusing the mind on a form of the divine, helps develop concentration and reduces mental distractions.
So they clean the mirror, so to speak.
That's a great way to put it. They make the mind steady and pure enough for the subtle truths of Vedanta to be grasped and take root.
And the Ayurveda source really stresses the guru's role, guiding the student towards this Brahmajnana using the Mahavakyas.
Absolutely vital. The Mahavakyas, the great Upanishadic statements, like Tattvamasi, that thou art.
Which directly says, you are that. You, the individual, are Brahman.
It's a direct pointer. And others too. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Prajanam Brahma. Consciousness is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. This self, Atman, is Brahman.
These aren't just philosophical statements, are they? They're meant for realization.
Exactly. They are tools for contemplation and direct experience.
Now, First Lessons talks about needing to eliminate the limiting adjuncts, upadis, like mind, intellect, senses, body, using neti, not this.
The via negativa.
It sounds like systematically saying, I'm not my body, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings.
That's precisely the process. By understanding and letting go of identification with everything that changes, everything that is not the permanent self.
You start to recognize what's left, what you truly are.
The unchanging awareness. And the sources mention the Jivan Mukta one, liberated while still living.
Living freedom.
And the Vidahamukta, liberated after the body drops away. And again, that dispassion, vairagya, and that intense yearning, mumukshutva, are crucial.
The source used that analogy of someone whose clothes are on fire running for water.
Yes. That level of urgency, that intensity in the desire for truth, for liberation, it's considered essential.
Vedanta seems to really lean on these analogies. You mentioned Nyaya's illustrations. Why are they so central?
Well, these Vedantic ideas, they can be incredibly subtle, right? Abstract. Yeah. Analogies make them relatable.
They ground them in everyday experience.
Exactly. They bridge the gap between what we know and these profound truths about reality. Both First Lessons and Ayadvaita are full of them.
Okay, let's quickly touch on a few. We already mentioned the rope and the snake showing the world illusion projected onto Brahman.
And the mirage showing how the world's promise of lasting pleasure is illusory.
Like chasing water that isn't there. Then there's the gold ornaments and gold.
Showing how the world's names and forms are just appearances of the one substance, Brahman. Like bangles and rings are just gold.
Right, and the person changing clothes, illustrating the jiva changing bodies.
Transmigration.
Yeah.
Or the salt doll dissolving in the ocean.
Ah, that's beautiful. The individual merging back into the infinite.
It captures that merging perfectly. And the man looking for the necklace he's already wearing.
That's a classic. Searching outside for the happiness that's already within us as our true nature.
We do that all the time, don't we? Then there's pot space and infinite space.
Explain that one quickly.
The space inside a pot seems separate, defined by the pot. But it's the same infinite space that's outside. Break the pot.
And the space just merges. The individuality dissolves.
Exactly. Dissolving the limited self in the supreme self. And the city reflected in a mirror. The world appears in Brahman, but doesn't affect Brahman's nature.
Like the mirror isn't changed by the reflection.
Precisely. The Srimad Bhagavatam, quote, in Ayadvaita, brings back that rope snake again, just emphasizing how powerful that image is for understanding illusion and reality.
They really do paint vivid pictures. Okay, let's shift focus slightly to consciousness itself, Chaitanya, and the three states we all experience.
Right. First Lessons defines Chaitanya simply as the consciousness that is Brahman. It's the fundamental nature.
And it manifests in the three states.
We experience it through the three common states. Jagrat, waking consciousness, Svapna, dreaming, and Sushupti, deep sleep.
But Vedanta adds a fourth, Turiya.
Yes, Turiya. It's described as the underlying reality, the silent witness of the other three states. It's present through waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, but remains untouched, unchanged by their coming and going.
It's the constant background.
You could say that. It's the awareness in which the states appear and disappear.
And it's mentioned that in deep sleep, Sushupti, the mind and world vanish, and we experience a kind of transcendental happiness rooted in Brahman.
Exactly. Even though we don't usually remember it as such, that experience of objectless peace and wholeness in deep sleep is seen as a pointer to our inherent nature as Ananda, bliss.
The absence of struggle, of duality.
Yes. And the Ayadvaita source connects this too, drawing from the Mandukya Upanishad, which famously analyzes the states in relation to the syllable Om. It suggests Turiya is beyond ordinary understanding, the cessation of the phenomenal, the non-dual self.
So bringing this all together, what are the practical takeaways? How does understanding all this actually change anything in our daily lives?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? The sources really emphasize self-inquiry, amavichara, constantly asking, who am I?
The core Vedantic method.
Yes. It's about systematically investigating and detaching from identification with the body, the mind, the ego, all the things we think we are.
To realize the true self, which is just pure consciousness.
Right. First Lessons points out that the I thought itself is the seat of the mind, and the whole world we experience is basically an expansion of our thoughts, our sankalpas.
So letting go of those limiting thoughts.
Renouncing sankalpas is presented as key to liberation, moksha.
It also talks about overcoming ragadvesha,
Yeah.
attachments and aversions, likes and dislikes.
Absolutely critical for peace of mind. Vedanta sees these ingrained pulls and pushes as the real roots of our suffering and inner conflict.
Constantly reacting based on like or dislike.
Exactly. Cultivating detachment, equanimity towards pleasure and pain, gain and loss is essential. The Ayadvaita source, referencing the Bhagavad Gita, echoes this.
Yeah.
It stresses rising above just body consciousness, recognizing the Atman, the true self, in all beings.
Yeah.
And practical wisdom like not getting caught up in praising or blaming others, seeing the world as, well, a manifestation of nature and souls ultimately rooted in that one absolute truth.
This has been, wow, such a rich and insightful deep dive into Vedanta's core ideas, all based on these sources you sent. So to quickly recap, we've looked at the non-dual reality, Brahman, the idea that our individuality and the world have this illusory quality, maya or avidya, and the path to freedom through self-knowledge, Atmajnana.
Yeah, it's a profound system of thought.
Clearly multifaceted.
Indeed. And this deep dive, it's really just scratched the surface, hasn't it? It's a foundation based specifically on the materials shared with us. There's so much more.
Layers upon layers. So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to really chew on. Think about those analogies we discussed. The rope and the snake, the mirage, the gold ornaments, the pot space. How did those images challenge your everyday sense of what's real? What could it actually mean for your day-to-day experience if the world, and even your own identity, are fundamentally more connected, more fluid than they seem?
Yeah.
What if Brahman truly is the ultimate reality underlying everything?
It's a powerful question to sit with. And we definitely encourage you to explore the provided sources further if this sparked your interest. Dive deeper into Vedanta.
There's clearly a huge amount of wisdom and potential for transformation there.
For anyone seeking a deeper understanding of themselves and, well, reality itself.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until our next exploration, keep questioning, keep seeking.